So today, you know, it's not often that we have a Shaftesbury talk where you get fashion accessories, but today we have that. We are celebrating National School Choice Week as is being celebrated across the country. As a matter of fact, Governor McCrory will be issuing a proclamation today, making it official that it is National School Choice Week right here in North Carolina. Many other governors across the country are doing the same thing. So this is a big deal, and we're very proud to be able to celebrate and to kick off National School Choice Week with this Shaftesbury talk. Now, a couple things I'll ask you to, as you would imagine, not only are we doing this, we're doing a lot of other things on social media. You can participate that in. Well, Carrie, can you tell us just real quickly how we can get on social media with this?
Sure. For those of you who have Twitter, School Choice Week is using the hashtag School Choice. So we're basically trying to raise the optimum amount of awareness. Send out your tweets from the talk, tweets from today, and follow us at John Locke NC. We love that.
Perfect. We also have, you may have noticed some of the posters that we have around. We have extras of these. If you would like to take any of these with you back to your workplace or, you know, put in the back of your car or anything to help publicize National School Choice Week, we can make that happen for you as well. Also, I would be remiss if I did not introduce the dignitaries that we have in the audience. Representative Skip Stam has been a champion for school choice for decades, and we owe so much to him. North Carolina would not be where we are without Skip Stam's leadership. And we're also pleased that the State Board Chairman, Bill Kobe, has joined us as well, and again, a champion for education in North Carolina and school choice. Chairman Kobe, thank you for everything that you do and for your leadership as well. Just a couple of school choice stats that you may be interested in, a couple numbers to keep in mind. 2016 is the 20th anniversary of Historic Charter Schools Act of 1996, which was the beginning and ushered in the era of parental choice in K-12 education in North Carolina. So happy birthday, happy 20th birthday to school choice. I think it's kind of interesting too that with the 20th anniversary, if you think about it this way, there are kids now who are in college in North Carolina who started their educational experience as kindergartners in school choice, and this is just going to get bigger. It's just going to get better. Do we have one here? Oh, Representative Marcus Brandon, former representative. Thank you for your leadership too. I didn't see you come in. Another number to keep in mind, approximately 78,000 children are enrolled in public charter schools, more than 97,000 attend private schools, and an estimated 107,000 are educated in home schools. So again, school choice is alive and well and flourishing in North Carolina. And we've been very proud to be part of that at the John Locke Foundation. Now it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Darrell Allison, who is with the Parents of Educational Freedom in North Carolina, has served as the president of that organization since they started here in North Carolina. And Darrell has a great resume. He has experience working with White House officials, with congressional leaders on Capitol Hill. He has been a legal specialist for the U.S. Department of Justice. He's received numerous honors, Education Reformer to Watch by the Walton Family Foundation in 2013. He was honored as a diversity champion by Partners for Developing Futures. He currently serves on the Board of Trustees for the North Carolina Central University. Former White House intern, he graduated magna cum laude from North Carolina Central University and has a law degree from the University of North Carolina School of Law. So this is clearly somebody who is well educated himself, knows school choice, has been a champion for this. Under his leadership, great things have happened in North Carolina, but I think it's important to mention that what really drives Darrell and what really drives his love of this and the passion that he has is he's a dad. He has 2 little girls, and he cares about his children just like he cares about everybody else's children. And I think that's something that we all have in common, all of us who really care about school choice and realize the implications. It starts at home. It starts with our own children and recognizing that every child deserves those opportunities. And people like Darrell Allison have worked tirelessly to make that happen. So Darrell, welcome, and we're looking forward to celebrating with you.
Thank you. All right.
We're good? All right. Well, listen, it's a pleasure to be before you all. I don't take it for granted. Looking around the audience here, I know we're celebrating National School Choice Week this week, but looking around this room, I would say that though I'm standing here, we all, many of you should be very, very proud of where we are, the hard work that you put in, years' work, yeoman's work over the years. And I'm truly honored to be a part of you in not only this work, but celebration as well. And I will also say, I've talked to communities from across the state and, leaders and things of that nature, but it's not every day that you are presenting at this Shaftesbury Society. And so I do appreciate Becky, the introduction, Mitch, and Locke Foundation for allowing me to chat with you. And we'll get started here. You have to bear with me here, not the most technically sophisticated, but we'll make it work. I thought we would start the program. I've got a couple of videos. One I want to show this to you. And I have here is a parallel journey of parental school choice in North Carolina. So rather than me talk about our organization, Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina, the work that we've done over the 10 years, I thought we'd do a parallel track, not only a little bit about our organization, but also about the growth here that we have seen. I will say to you that though we're 20 years in, I think Representative Stam and others will say to you, and Representative Brandon, really within the last 10 years or so, we've really seen a tremendous increase in expansion here in our state. And so without further ado, I wanted you all to just take a moment, look at this video. This picture says it all. This is how we started. The date is July 5th, 2005. And Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina was more of an idea than an actual organization 10 years ago. We had no staff, no office, and operated on a shoestring budget. However, I liken this 1998 green Honda Accord to the little engine that could, as this vehicle spent literally the next 4 years crossing every region of our state. I bought this pre-owned Honda Accord with 50,000 miles on it before it died and went to Honda heaven at exactly 172,000 miles. Over 122,000 miles was dedicated to building a strong grassroots organization called Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina. We built an army of supporters and partners, and together we planted a flag in the ground of our great state in 2011 for parental school choice.
With over 60,000 supporters strong, Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina is an organization consisting of moms, dads, educators, and community leaders joining together across the state supporting ideals of parental school choice. And with this army of support, we have been victorious. First, we helped pass landmark legislation, which eliminated the cap on public charter schools and was supported by 97% of the legislature and signed by our governor. Second, with our army of support, we were also instrumental in the passage of a special needs tax credit bill, which is the first school choice law in North Carolina where private school is an option for parents who seek alternative education for their children. Though successful in recent efforts, more must be done. Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina cannot stop and will not stop until every family has the option to choose the best education for their child. If you agree that the quality of a child's education should not be determined by income or zip code, if you agree that all families should have access to a quality education regardless of what model they choose, and if you agree that parents, not the system, should ultimately decide how best to educate their children, then won't you join us? Join our growing army of supporters and help us make history by providing a brighter future for North Carolina's most valuable commodity, our children. Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina, where freedom for parents plus more options for children equals success for all.
2011 was an important year, but we didn't stop there as we worked even harder to ensure that the issue of parental school choice would not be viewed as Democrats versus Republicans or liberals versus conservatives. This journey is about parents and children, and we held true to this message by earning hundreds of news article mentions, television and radio show appearances, giving a strong voice to the issue of parental school choice. I think we are having a 20th century and 21st century conversation, and it's a challenge. We have to ask ourselves in North Carolina and in our nation, how are we going to truly educate every single child? That every single child should have a customized education that's going to work for him or her. Yeah. And so what we say is, for the 2,300 traditional public schools we have in the state, make sure we have the funding, make sure we have the infrastructure, make sure we're paying teachers well.
And standards, though. What about the standards?
And standards. But at the same time, we're saying for our public charter schools and private schools, they're different. They are unique. Yeah. And just because they're different, not the same as the traditional public schools, doesn't make them any less quality. In 2015, our state witnessed another historical moment for families desiring another educational option through parental school choice. That choice, the Opportunity Scholarship Program. We fought hard at the North Carolina General Assembly for this program, and we, along with our many partners, fought even harder legally in our courts. And on July 23, 2015, the North Carolina Supreme Court once again rang the bell of justice when they ruled in favor of parents and children of this great state. The Opportunity Scholarship Program now has the potential to educate over 6,000 low-income children through nearly $25 million in funding, which will be provided for children to attend a school of their choice. Tonight's 10th anniversary of Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina is not simply another event or the promotion of one single organization. It's much more than that. Tonight, it's about our state, our communities, our families, and most importantly, our children. This movement is truly about parents who desperately seek the freedom to choose the right setting for their children. Tonight, we honor a small group of leaders who helped make this dream a reality in North Carolina, and we also celebrate with all of you. Magic can happen as we continue working together as a coalition of committed leaders.
We're very glad that this program is going to continue. It brings stability to the children's life. It's not just about us, the parents, but I think what the Supreme Court did is something great for the children.
North Carolina family wins. So that was shown. We celebrated 10 years, November of last year. I thought, again, it gives you a little bit picture about the work the last 10 years organization, but at the same time, it really show you just what can happen when folks from all sects of life come together, work on an issue that's so critical. Families win, children win, and so we all celebrate that here in our state. I want to take for a few minutes here and just talk about the picture of K-12 education in our state. All too often, I believe, and I really appreciate our public school officials here, all too often I think the conversation stops there. And when we talk about K-12 education in the state of North Carolina, kind of our public schools. So just a number of little statistics here. We have 1.4 million children that are educated there. Homeschool. North Carolina has one of the largest growing percentage of homeschool family students and families in our nation. And we're at 107,000 roughly. Private school, nearly 98,000 children are educated in our private schools in the state of North Carolina. Public charter school, nearly 80,000 as we're nearing that. And then right here, there's something new. We'll get into each of these a little bit later. We introduced this year the first usage of the virtual public charter school. Roughly 3,000 is the max there. Let's talk a little bit about our public charter schools in the state of North Carolina. And I want to start by saying Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy and Sugar Creek Charter School. These are North Carolina based public charter schools, and let me tell you, exceptional in every way. Thomas Jefferson is the western part of our state, Rutherford County. So if you're ever near Asheville and between, maybe you're traveling up from Charlotte, you want to be inspired about a great work happening in the mountains, Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy is one you want to stop by. And then if you're in Charlotte, Sugar Creek Charter School, if you want to see a school, leaders that are adequately educating low-income, mostly minority children where English is many in their cases second language, you need to stop by Sugar Creek Charter School. It's a prize, and we couldn't be more proud. They get a lot of national acclaim, but we're so excited by the fact that they are our own, and we're really excited about that. But here's a little snapshot about kind of the population growth here with our public charter schools. As we said, we had a cap of 100, so 2011, 2012, 100 public charter schools, population near 45,000. We were able to eliminate the cap on public charter schools after 2011, and so you saw an increase of 107 to 48,795. Then that increased to 129 public charter schools, roughly 54,000 students. 2014-15, just last year, we're at 148 public charter schools, roughly 64,000. This year, we have 158 public charter schools, educating nearly 78,000. So just again, when we talk about 20 years of growth and expansion here, really in the public charter school sector, you see in the last 5 years or so, guys, we're nearing 60% growth. We are potentially projecting roughly maybe 175 public charter schools in a year or so that will get roughly close to 90,000. And pretty soon, I think we're going to see pretty soon 100% growth since 2011 in the public charter school sphere. Now, I will say to you, don't be alarmed by the numbers, because back in 2011, and Mitch, I think I will try to do the arrow here. 2011, this is really important about the public charter school demand. Though we had 100 charter schools in 47 counties, we had over 30,000 families that were on waiting lists on those public charter schools. And so when you see these numbers down here at the bottom, we'll still be far behind the demand for this option for many families in our state. So we're really proud about the way we're moving forward here, and we'll get to more conversation about that later. Let's take a picture, take a snapshot here of the homeschool population. 2011, roughly 48,000 families were educating nearly 80,000 students. 2012-13, 53,000 families were educating nearly 88,000 students, again, homeschool. 2013-14, nearly 61,000 families were educating a little over 98,000 students. And this year, and the last numbers we have, close to 68,000 families are educating nearly 107,000 students. When we talk about parental school choice, I appreciate private school, charter school, virtual, etc. But these families, these nearly 68,000 families, they're putting, the money where the mouth is in terms of taking on the ownership of educating their children there at home, and I think that's to be lauded. I love my daughters to life, 10-year-old, 6-year-old, but I will not be the primary responsible person educating them. I love taking them to our public school where they're zoned to and picking them up at the end of the day. But the real yeoman's work, and again, North Carolina is really a leader when you look at percentage-wise in terms of growth nationally in this area. North Carolina Virtual Public Charter Schools, pilot program facts. In 2015, 2 virtual public charter schools were authorized to serve North Carolina students. You all probably haven't heard about that, but you'll be hearing more and more about that. North Carolina Connections Academy, North Carolina Virtual Academy. By law, under a 4-year pilot program, so it's a 4-year pilot program, these virtual public charter schools can serve kind of a max combined 3,000 students this year. They can increase by 20% to potentially 3,600 next year, 4,320 the year after, and potentially can be serving at the end of this 4-year time frame nearly 5,000 students. And again, something new that's here in our state. But again, when you look at virtual public charter schools with the understanding that virtually they'll be educated in their home, we do have a base, we do have a track record, we do have a history. And when you look at the homeschool population, where this is something that parents in our state gravitate to, again, we're a leader in homeschool in many ways in terms of percentage. And so we're going to be keeping our eyes on this. But this is something new in this first year of the program, and all eyes will be on the progress there of these two schools. Private school enrollment, 2012, 2013. Nearly 96,000 students. Interesting thing here, we had a drop-off. Again, this is just for students there in 2013-14 of 94,302 students. But then when you factor in the two programs, the Opportunity Scholarship Program and the Special Needs Program, again, these are scholarships for children with disability, low income, to be able to be educated in the state. You saw that's a combine of nearly 1,500. 2014-15, the population about 97,259, where you saw the increase there of scholarship participation. And this is what we're projecting, that when you combine the scholarship students, special needs, and opportunity scholarship, we're going to get around 5,500 this year, and we'll be looking at about 98,500 students educated in private school. I think what you can see here is the blue lines kind of represent those families. I'm not saying that all families could easily afford private education, but the vast majority of them could. What we're starting to see by way of Opportunity Scholarship Program, a vehicle by which low-income, moderate-income families are not able to take a scholarship, and they too are interested in enrolling their children in this option here in our state. Why the Opportunity Scholarship Program? And this is one that I'll always want to underscore. I appreciate Raleigh. I appreciate sitting with you all talking policy, talking shop, talking politics, debating and all of that stuff. But it's truly about North Carolina families. And our organization, we are a grassroots organization. We're not always here in Raleigh. I trust me on that. We're really out in the communities. And one of the things that we always want to make sure that we do is we keep the first thing. And so rather than me talk about the Opportunity Scholarship Program, I thought we would take a moment here to show you the power of the Opportunity Scholarship Program by sharing of a family story.
My name is Paula Kennedy and I am from Olin. I have two boys, ages 15 and 13. Nathaniel and Dakota received the Opportunity Scholarship. As a parent, I saw the need for a different set of circumstances, situation when they struggled at school. Nathaniel did not really have the social skills that he needed to interact with his peers. Therefore, a lot of comments that were made to him were negative. I received a call from school saying that someone had reported that he decided that he was going to end his life. I knew then that I needed a different option for my child. I needed him in a safe and secure atmosphere without words being thrown at him, such as, you need to just kill yourself because we don't want to look at your face anymore. They didn't want to be in an environment that they felt was threatening to them, and I didn't want them there either. The way that my boys have grown being in the setting that they're in now, my son Nathaniel, he reaches out to people, he talks to people, he's not afraid to talk, he's not afraid to interact. His grade in math is an A/B, has not strayed from that. Dakota, they accommodate his curriculum to his abilities. Now, I saw the email that my boys had received the scholarships, and so I was so excited to tell them. And when I went and picked them up, I told them, I said, you both got the scholarships and you get to go to the school that we've chosen. And you would think that I told them that they received $1 million. The relief I saw on his face is the relief I want to see on his face next year when it is decided, if it is decided, that we will have this opportunity to choose where we would like our children to be. The Opportunity Scholarship is very important to me as a parent because I've seen both sides. For other parents to have the opportunity that I have been blessed with, to have the Opportunity Scholarship for their children, I believe will provide hope that as I have been provided with hope, I believe they will see their children thrive in the school environment that they choose. My name is Paula Kennedy. I'm a mother of 2 boys, and I'm from Olin.
That's why we fight for the Opportunity Scholarship Program, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. Real family, real struggles, and that's the fuel that continues to help our organization grow, and wanted to just share that story to you all. Again, we can get so caught up in policy and amendments and passage and all of legal lawsuits, things of that nature. But for that mother, and those 2 boys, pretty powerful stuff. Back to the picture, K-12 education. We talked about the various options. Let's dig a little bit, and let's talk about these enrollment numbers. 2012, 2013, nearly 88,000 students. And look at the bottom number here. Private school, nearly 96,000. Public charter school, nearly 49,000. 2013, 2014, homeschool, 98,000. Private school, nearly 96,000. Public charter school, nearly 54,000. Look at the previous year, 232,721 students. Just in a year's time, growing to 247,595. Those are years 2013-14. 2014-15, nearly 107,000 homeschool. Private school, a little over 97,000, close to 97,500. Public charter school, nearly 64,000, a little over. Look at again the totals from the previous year to that year. And this is what we're projecting. In homeschool, we're thinking we're going to get to close to 110,000 enrollment in terms of numbers showing this year. Later this year, they'll see these numbers. Private school, we're projecting that we'll get around 98,500. Large cases due to scholarship programs, special needs and low income opportunity scholarship. Public charter school, we're at 78,000 that are educated there. And then with virtual public education, again, assuming the max for this, max of 3,000, right at 289,500. Last but not least, this is further out here, but if you look at the trend of homeschool, 113,000. Private school, we think we'll be getting over 100,000 in private school. Public charter school, with the additional public charter schools coming on the scene as well as existing, being able to increase. We think in 2 years' time we'll be getting close to 89,500. Virtual charter school, assuming the max, right around 3,600. Key point, 1.4 million children educated in our state traditional public school, but we believe in a couple years we'll be getting over 300,000 children that are educated non-traditionally in our state. And this is a paradigm shift that is happening. It's one thing for me to say it, for us in the room to say it, but I think it's pretty darn powerful when other powerful leaders are recognizing it as well. And I want to read this quote and look and make note of who it comes from. In the past, public charter schools could assign students to wherever they wanted to because parents couldn't make a choice to leave the public schools. Now we're trying to make every school choice a high quality so that parents don't want to leave. At a time when people like choice, we must provide options to families. That's not my quote. That's not a quote from Terry Stoops, the Locke Foundation. That is a quote from Tom Benton, the chairman of the Wake County School Board, December 8, 2015, News and Observer. I know we got a couple of media folks here, so I want to make sure we cite that quote. Pretty powerful statement. Pretty powerful statement. It's a paradigm shift that's here in our state, and I'm happy to be a part of that. I want to end with this, ladies and gentlemen. I got 3 things I want to talk to you about as we talk about parental school choice. Now that we looked at the numbers and we get a sense of things, really this question is not to the critics of parental school choice or just the general public. Really, it's more of a question that is targeted to us, general supporters of it, advocates, if you will, of parental school choice. 10 years ago, we were fighting to get it. In many cases, now that we have it, we have to ask ourselves some questions, and we have to really think about what is it now that we're after here in our state. First point, this is Darrell talking. We must be just as vigilant about quality as we are about the growth of choice. So again, we're going to see these numbers. You saw these numbers. We're going to get there. But I think we've got to be just as vigilant about quality as we are about choice. And a sub point here, how do we really feel about public charter school performance in North Carolina? Dr. Terry Stoops can speak to this. By and large, generally better. But I always like to tell supporters and advocates, let's be honest with the numbers. We have nearly 2,200 traditional public schools in our state in all 100 counties. We only have 158 public charter schools in existence. And so when you think about that, when you think about thousands or more compared to 158 public charter schools, and when you look at the results, where we're marginally better, A to B, if you will, less schools that are failing in our public charter school sector, but we have to say to ourselves, are we for choice about another average school? Or is choice, the fire that burns within choice is that we can do it better. We can be better. And we want to push this envelope here more in the direction of greater quality choice. So again, kind of rhetorical questions, but the kind of questions that we need to think about as we get to numbers 200 public charter schools, 250 public charter schools. We'll be there soon enough. At the end of the day, we want to say, but these are 200 and 250 options that we believe are quality options. The other point, what would be our response when media spotlights a low-performing private school participating in the Opportunity Scholarship Program? So we have nearly, 360 some odd private schools that are participating in the Opportunity Scholarship Program. I'm a big believer in the Opportunity Scholarship Program. Trust me, we're going to have some bad actors. There's bound to be a private school that's maybe not measuring up when we get statistics about performance of students, and the calls will come, and statements will come. What do we say as advocates, supporters? Again, we want to make sure it's fair and equitable, but the assessment is that this is a bad performing private school. Again, are we relying on the fact that it's a choice, or do we as advocates, supporters, ones who's fought for diligently for programs like this, are we on the front lines to say, hey, we're for quality choice, and this option is not a good option, and we're recommending to families to look elsewhere? Again, just something for us to think about as advocates and supporters of North Carolina progress in parental school choice. Second point, we must allow for current options to take root before rushing for more options. You just look at the fact that we have the special needs bill, special needs program. It has been facelift, I don't know how many times. It started as a tax credit, and we converted it to a grant, and then we want to make it for so everyone could afford it and take advantage of it. But we actually have right now, with the special needs measure, 500 families that are on waiting lists and no monies to be able to allocate for them to be able to exercise the program. The Opportunity Scholarship Program, as we all know, though we passed it 2013, we had a year and a half of legal fights all the way up to the Supreme Court. And so we were finally able to get over that hump. And to be honest with you, this is the first year. I believe it's really the first year of the program in operation, because we're able to go from 2015 to 2016 without any hesitations, without any challenges. But the key that I want to talk about, allow the options to take root. We should be getting information as to how are the kids doing in these private schools sometime this year, next year, and then who are the schools that are educating these families. Again, we don't have that data. We don't have that information. And again, it's one of these things before we get to rushing to pick and choose another option or kind of move on. Let's take some time to really make sure that the gains that we've already made, that we make sure that we strengthen them to the greatest possible way. And then from that, we can make some real calculated decisions moving forward. Again, these are things to think about as advocates and supporters of parental school choice. And here's something that's very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. North Carolina has 100 counties, but public charter schools only exist in 59 of those counties. Real powerful statement. Can we honestly say, no matter the zip code or income, you too can have a choice? So we know that we have a real challenge in our state, right? We have the big metropolitan areas, but we be honest, most of North Carolina is mostly rural, kind of community-based. I know I grew up in Kannapolis, that was one. And so we say, regardless of income, regardless of zip code, you too can have a choice. But the numbers just don't bear that out, Rhett. And again, we're talking about taking root, allowing these options to take root. I am hopeful that in addition to seeing growth in Raleigh and Greensboro, Charlotte, the other cities, that we'll begin to, as supporters and advocates of choice, that we will get behind leaders who are thinking about, maybe starting schools where there are a great number of counties. Again, public charter schools only exist in 59 counties of our 100. What do we say to those families? What do we say to those children? If this is truly a statewide program, I think we want to try our best to come together and look at ways in which we too can make sure that these families, these children are not left out. And where we know that some of our rural communities are having a challenge, even our traditional public schools, of educating, I actually see a wonderful opportunity for public charter schools to make a difference, to be able to show that despite the fact that you're low income in rural county, you too can be educated, and we're doing it by way of a public charter. And so just something for us to think about here as advocates and supporters. Is choice simply about increasing the number of public charter schools or increasing choice programs, or is it truly about quality choice? We talked about that. Last point, I think we must demonstrably seek partnership with leaders in traditional public school districts and systems. You saw the quote from the chairman of the public school system here in Wake County. And this is something here, and Dr. Terry Stoops, you can correct me later here, but I think we have 117 districts, 115 district schools in North Carolina. But as I understand, there's only one that has consistently incorporated long-term public school choice as an option, and that being Winston-Salem school system.
You mean traditional?
Yes, traditional. I'm sorry, traditional. So the choice movement, where do we, how do we continue North Carolina's progress in parental choice? What I'm saying is we have non-traditional options, but you just heard from the chairman of the largest school system in our state say, you know what? we have got to be thinking about providing families with options. And when we see here that of the 115 school districts in our state, only one, Winston-Salem school system, has really invoked and put in place, I think over a decade now, where family, regardless of where you are, have at least 3 options to choose. What a wonderful opportunity for us to seek partnerships with these kind of leaders and show them and work with them. Because again, the vast majority of families will be educated in our traditional public school system. How powerful would it be, many of our districts incorporate choice for families to be able to choose and be able to have some say-so and how to educate our children. I say the movement for the last 20 years has been about getting it. And now I think the next maybe 20 years that we need to think about is how is North Carolina going to refine what parental school choice is, and that we are not going to be ones that are going to be kind of isolated in the non-traditional space. We think it's good for all. We think parental school choice is something that all should embrace, whether you're non-traditional or traditional, because the more quality options you have, the better the chances that we're going to be able to reach that child, educate that child, and that child succeed. Now, I want to leave with this statement. As our nation celebrates National School Choice Week across all 50 states at over 16,500 events, it is important to understand North Carolina isn't simply a member of the band in this school choice trend. It is the drum major leading others in a growing national parent revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, that ends my presentation, and we'll open up for some questions and answers. Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned that you need to work with school systems to become a partner. And I know in covering some of the things you folks have done to try to establish charter schools in other counties, can you tell me how you go about establishing those partnerships?
I think the same way that we went about in 2005 as starting this organization. I mean, I cannot tell you, I love how people always like to quickly say that parental school choice is a Republican-driven, mainstream, only on the Republican issue. 2005, the politics didn't match up. 2005, I had Republicans slapping me on the back saying, good luck, I'm with you, but it ain't going to happen, because they were looking at the local politics, if you will. So if we're looking short-sighted, a huge mountain. The key, though, is that if you believe this is an ideal worth fighting for, and you think the numbers and statistics and information is on your side, connect with those kind of folk who will be open-minded, independent thinking to make a way. And we made actually significant strides. In fact, when we think about it, when we eliminated the cap on public charter school, and we passed our very first private school measure, yes, we had a supermajority in the Senate, but we only had a slight majority in the House, and we had a Democratic governor. So for eliminating the cap on public charter schools, we not only passed that measure, but we passed it with 97% of all members supporting it, and we got the governor to sign it, which was very, very big. And on top of that, a month later, we passed our very first private school measure, the special needs. So often we get into the politics and we look at the short side. Yeah, it'll take a while. I don't expect every leader in the school district to be a Tom Benton, right? And say, come on, but think about it. If a Tom Benton is out there and he's made that statement, and we just let that sit on the sideline, I mean, but follow a call to Tom, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about some things. Again, we're talking about the largest school district in the state. I believe that can have some positiveness. And again, we can point to a school district that's already embraced this idea of public choice. Maybe we all need to take a visit, some fact-finding trips to Winston-Salem to see how that has, how has it worked for over 10 years, et cetera. And so I think slowly but surely, we'll begin the discussion. But make no mistake, I just showed you some numbers and statistics. one of the reasons why Mr. Benton was sharing that, making that statement, was because Wake County experienced, as you all may have read for the first time, slippage in terms of students and enrollment. And actually there's been more growth in Wake County for these other options other than the traditional public school option. So you do have that sense of urgency in some cases that I think where it may have been deaf ears 5 to 10 years ago, more apt to engage in conversation. I think for the school choice movement, a wonderful opportunity for us to embrace and move forward on. Yes, ma'am.
Darrell, Annie Dante, NC State. I really appreciated your point about being vigilant about quality moving forward, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your mindset on the value of evaluating the program and research in general moving forward.
Well, I think that's, as we have seen with the upcoming public charter school report, we are very, very, very sensitive to make sure that we have a fair, equitable structure in place so that, you know, we don't allow for anything other than more of the objective than subjective. And so those of you that may have recently in the news, you know, the lieutenant governor's come out, I made some statements. You know, we want a fair assessment. And again, we're not saying that every public charter school, you know, every private school is knocking it out the park. But I also say that our state officials and those that are doing this have to understand that they're doing this for the first time. That there's a huge education gap that they don't have. You know, public charter schools didn't just come on the scene in 2011. They've been on the scene since 1996. And when I talk to school officials, hardly any one of them prior to 2011 ever visited a public charter school. So there's no unfamiliarity, things of that nature. So we've got to make sure that we're careful and we're accurate, right, and how we assess and report out. The same thing with the Opportunity Scholarship Program. We've never, as a state, engaged private schools before. The way they do it is different than the way our traditional public schools do it. And so I think we got to be very, very careful not to quickly do an apples to apples comparison. At the same time, we do want to know the state of things, but we want to make sure that it's done as objective as possible, as fair as possible. And so that is one area that I will say for advocates and supporters that we got to make sure that we are just as interested in and engaged in, and we look forward to continue that. Again, we want the fairest platform so that then we can make the assessments of how quality, how much of a quality these options are in our state. Yes, sir.
One thing that puzzles me is that the task of getting out of a traditional school is harder than transferring within a traditional school, yet there's little emphasis for parents to be able to move from, let's say, the west side of town or the east side of town. But they go to a charter school, it seems easier. Why is is that political? Why?
So yes and no. And again, at a high level, and I know we got to end here. So the school board level, they're able to draw. You know, when you have assessment of schools, you want to make sure you have a balance. That's very important for them. And so a few years you may be zoned to this school, and a few years later you may be zoned to that school. We're in that. My two girls are in the traditional public school, so my wife and I, we're very, very attentive to understanding that this year our kids could be zoned to this school, but the next year the redrawing of the maps. I think that's one of the reasons why families embrace choice, because when you draw the districts, right, the parents really have no say in that. And when you say politics, I mean, you have to read the papers and see that. But I'm sure a lot of that factors into that. I know it's a real focus for folks to make sure that you have this kind of equation of racial diversity and things of that nature, and whatever is important, that's fine. But at the same time, we believe the 21st century, in order for that child to be a better student, you have to allow that parent to be more engaged in that process. That's one of the things that we've seen in other states, Milwaukee, Florida, that programs that's been in existence for 25 years or more, that in addition to that child doing better, for the first time, many of those parents have been engaged. And we all know the perfect equation. I don't care if you're talking about a traditional school or non-traditional school. The perfect equation for more excellent education is that you have an attentive student, engaged parent working with that teacher. Public charter schools, private schools inherently have that because you're not zoned to a private school. You're not zoned to a charter school. That parent is choosing to send their child there. My point is, if you allow that to some degree, if we allow more of that in our school districts, I believe, regardless of income, regardless of the fact that mama and daddy didn't get a GED, you'll have a better chance of that child being able to be better educated because you've empowered that parent to have some say-so in the matter. Last question? One more. Okay. On this side, maybe? Okay, yes.
One of the things that strikes me about this that's different is a lot of times you're going to the legislature and you're asking them to do things that are going to save them money, not cost them more money. Do you have any idea how much the choice has saved the state? Because I know that a homeschool student is not, using resources.
They're saving the state big time.
The charter schools, they get some money from the state, but there's the buildings they don't get. And that's do you have any idea how much this program is?
Let me keep it at a high level because I know we have to end. First of all, an expert in the room is Representative Stam on that. So after we end up, you want to talk to him. But this is what I'll say to you. And this is where I say there's a semiotic relationship with non-traditional schools and traditional schools, whether they like to acknowledge that or not. For 1.4 million children, we're doing all we can to keep up, and house. I mean, more and more of our schools are doing year-round. The reason why they're doing that is because you're able to have more students. My children are year-round, so you're able to have more students rotating because we have a real issue here with school population. Think of the fact, and we're talking about 2 years from now, you have over 300,000 students that are educated in public charter school, homeschool, private school, charter school, virtual. What if every one of those families said, you know what? Because they have a constitutional right. We want our child back in the public school system. Think about the utter chaos that would happen and the hemorrhaging that will take place with our traditional public school system as we know it. It'll be devastating. You understand? So we have to appreciate, again, this is not traditional versus non-traditional. We have to appreciate the fact that there is a service that's being done, and the fact that when you look at the budgets of the traditional public school, they're mindful of that budget incorporates, whether they know it or not, that the fact that they're going to have certain kids in homeschool, private school, charter school, etc. And it is a savings to the state because I guarantee you over 300-some thousand new kids coming on the scene, it'll devastate our budget, state budget. But more particular questions, Representative Stam can answer those. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.